Rivers State House of Assembly has passed a motion to derecognize Celestine Omehia as a former governor of Rivers State. The motion was moved by the leader of the House, Martin Amemule, to reverse an earlier resolution of the 8th Assembly on June 30th, 2015, which compelled the executive arm, headed by Governor Nyesom Wike, to recognize Omehia as a former governor and be accorded all entitlements, privileges, and benefits. Well, he says that the continued recognition of Omehia in that capacity will be a breach of the Supreme Court judgment, which in 2007 removed Celestine Omehia as a governor for not being the duly elected candidate in that year's election.
Actually, a motion to resign the Rivers State House of Assembly resolution on the recognition of Sir Celestine Omehia as former governor of Rivers State and the restoration of all benefits and entitlements due to him. Mr. Speaker, distinguished colleagues, now better informed that the Supreme Court of Nigeria in the case of Amaechi versus INEC and two others, 2008, 5 Nigeria Weekly Law Reports Part 1080, page 227, and declared that the appellant, Right Honorable Rotimi Chibika Amaechi, was the actual and valid winner of that election in 2000. So, Mr. Speaker, the Supreme Court held that Omehia was never a candidate of that election and that he was never a governor of Rivers State.
If you are of the opinion that prayer for the House to resign the resolution of the Rivers State House of Assembly of 30th June, of his privileges and fringe benefits, can you indicate by raising your hands? Benefits and entitlements accruing to all former governors of Rivers State that are currently being extended to him, can you indicate by raising your hands? The House has so directed that the governor of Rivers State should endeavor to implement the resolution of the House as contained in the prayers canvassed by the leader of government business in the House today.
All right, let's make sense of this move by the Rivers House of Assembly as a lawyer and a RISE analyst. Frank Tietie joins us now. Good to see you on Newsnight again, as always. Now, what do you make of this? The Supreme Court had ruled and annulled the governorship, position of Omehia. He was there for about 6 months from,
May 29 to October.
May to October of 2007. In spite of that, the same administration that's now derecognizing him recognized him at some point. What exactly is this about?
Well, there are several cases where the Supreme Court has actually given directives flowing from its judgment to state houses of assembly. For example, in cases where governors or members of the houses of assembly were sacked, and then the houses of assembly were ordered to collect the salaries from them, the salaries that they collected while they were illegally occupying those offices. And the state houses of assembly actually turned a blind eye, pretended that they didn't see that part of the judgment. The Supreme Court doesn't really spend so much time and effort to implement or enforce its judgment. It just gives its judgment and allows the Attorney General of the Federation to go and enforce those judgments. So it's nearly ridiculous to think that the Supreme Court has pronounced what the law is. In fact, the dangerous part of it is that the Supreme Court actually warned vehemently that Omehia should never ever be referred to in any way to have ever occupied the post of a governor of Rivers State, because out of the 8 contestants in that primary, that PDP primaries in 2007, Omehia wasn't even one of them. So the court was asked a question that at that time, that look, what kind of inscrutable thing is this? That the PDP submitted Amaechi's name initially, and then asked INEC to substitute with Omehia's name on the basis that it did submit Amechi's name in error. The Supreme Court said if you really made error as a party, addressing Amadou Ali and Joe Madueke at that time, who were holding sway of PDP, that if you made an error, then you should have chosen either of any of the persons among the 8 candidates and not someone who didn't even participate in primaries. The Supreme Court was visibly angry at that time, considering that it had made a decision even in the case of Ararume in Imo State, expecting that the Amechi's case should have followed the Ararume's precedent. So to think that after years, a decade and some years, the Rivers State House of Assembly was still dilly-dallying about the decision of the Supreme Court, just shows you the level and extent politics can be taken, that it can be used to actually circumvent or reinterpret even the decision of the Supreme Court.
Oh, so there's a level of politics to this.
Oh, yes. No, a whole level of politics.
A whole level of politics. But so it will also be right to say that this was an illegality from the get-go by the Wike administration.
Oh, yes. No, but you see, it's like the voice of Jacob and the hand of Esau. So we see here the dramatic personnel are members of the Rivers State House of Assembly. But there's something enigmatic about Rivers State politics. That you see the follow-up news that is going with it, that says that a certain indictment which Wike fought up to the Supreme Court, that now gave it a blank check to now prosecute Amechi and the current gubernatorial candidate of APC, Toye Cole in Rivers State, only for them to come and say they are withdrawing it. Thus, immediately after, Wike is now pulling the rug off a supposed member of the PDP. I think the first misdirected motion of the Rivers State House of Assembly, asking the governor to recognize Omehia was more or less a party camaraderie, however illegal it was, but it was a sort of sympathy being extended to Omehia being a citizen of Rivers State, in that kind of thing that happens in the state, even though highly illegal. But turning around so quickly in this political dispensation where Rivers State is at the center of some political indefinition, shows that something beyond law is happening, and that Wike is at it again. He is planning something, and now what is he planning? He's now placating APC members. Suddenly, supposed political arch enemy in the person of Rotimi Amechi is now being pleased. Do you know what it means to give an order to the Attorney General of a state to withdraw charges, criminal charges that would have actually seen Amechi or Toye Cole approaching prison?
Or could it be a case of a friend of my enemy is my enemy?
Something is happening.
I mean, it's obvious that Omehia is, in the same, in the same boat with Atiku. I think. Yeah, is that what's playing out?
Clearly so, because Wike appears to have a secret enmity with the PDP leadership now. And it appears that he wants to dismantle the PDP in Rivers State, because this is a good example for someone who's enjoying privileges at the pleasure of the governor, suddenly having the State House of Assembly withdrawing such privileges, and then in that same breath turning around to give a life wire, a lifeline to Toye Cole, who is the gubernatorial candidate of the APC, and then freeing Amechi, because the drama that happened in court today was just, nothing happened, because what the court couldn't have ordered a dismissal because issues were not joined. So what has happened is that he just withdrew the charges, so the matters were struck out, which means the Rivers State government can actually go back charging Amechi and Cole. It's not yet over, yes, because it was merely the case was merely struck out. But clearly, what has the interpretation to the political watcher is that the APC is being favored and the PDP is being punished.
Okay, let's talk about the law again. Part of the resolutions of the House today was for Mr. Omehia to return nearly 700 million naira and stop using the title His Excellency. Is he obligated to do so? Return that money?
Oh, yes, indeed.
When all of this you have said was an illegality from the get-go?
No. It was a decision of the Supreme Court that Omehia should have never, ever, and should indeed never be recognized as a governor. Now, if ever he occupied the seat of a governor in Rivers State illegally and he got some privileges and emoluments, all of them should be considered to be illegally acquired and as such be returned to the state government. Now that order is to the State House of Assembly to so order to order the governor to return, to retrieve those monies. The Supreme Court has made a plethora of decisions, directives in that regard, that return monies for any political office holder that occupied a position and then collected salary for those period of times that they occupied that position illegally. They ought to return all of those monies. But the action must be taken either by the Attorney General of the Federation or by the Attorney General of the state. In this case, we've seen state governments unwilling to enforce that part of the judgment. So we want, and I doubt, if Wike goes further to ensure that Amechi returns, Omehia returns that money, the man might just be heading for a serious bankruptcy.
Whoa, a huge one. I mean, 696, yeah, almost 700. Help us understand exactly this derecognition. Is there a precedence for it to start with? And what exactly does it mean in the scheme of things? Apart from the fact that he'll be stripped of the GSS-RS, you know, the state honors, and has to return monetary entitlements. What are a whole lot of it is that it amounts to contempt of the judgment of the Supreme Court to still ever refer to Omehia as governor. In fact, the Supreme Court went to the extent of saying that if his picture should be removed from every office in Rivers State, and the records must be cleared of his name, not ever referring to him as someone who occupied the post of the governor of Rivers State. So there are perks that go with being a former occupant of the governorship seat in any state. All of those, I bet, should have been withdrawn before now. But out of sympathy before the State House of Assembly urged Wike, which was, like I referred to, a party camaraderie, but he will lose that, and then he stands the risk of losing further when the enforcement proceedings are led against him. But in politics, such things are used as a form of blackmail. So you are asked to keep quiet, and that as a politician who has the sword of Damocles hanging on your head, and if you don't keep quiet and if you go further, because it's a personality like Omehia, who had gone to the extent of ever being recognized as a governor, whoever got to a point where a person like Rotimi Amechi won primaries. He won 90% of the votes in that primaries. Yet somehow the PDP said, no, we withdrew Amechi's name and then substituted with Omehia. That is a very powerful figure in the state. So you need to keep that kind of figure on check. Omehia, actually, in spite of all that's been said, can he make a case against the State Assembly?
No, he cannot. Actually, Omehia tried to go back to the Supreme Court because he wondered how come the Supreme Court reached the decision of asking him to vacate as governor. He went back and the Supreme Court warned him severely not to ever come back. I think it also punished him with certain punitive damages. You know, the thing is that what Omehia did, informed much of the reform that we had in electoral law. A man that was nowhere, he didn't even bother to buy form, he didn't participate. The Supreme Court was wondering that and accused the PDP. He said, look, what's the meaning of that? If you knew that you had the power to just simply say you made error and you can substitute anybody's name as governor, you probably should have not held primaries in the first place. You should have just selected anybody and all that. You allow all people to go and waste their money and then you come. So for Omehia lending himself to be used in such a manner to truncate representative democracy, Omehia should be very careful because actually charges can be filed against him. Okay, so criminal charges can be filed against him.
That's it about Omehia. Let's talk about the administration. Some would say this also speaks to the abuse of power. How can it be checkmated? Because we have a governor who decided on this with, of course, the State House of Assembly, and they were all, in agreement of this. So how can this be checkmated?
Yeah. No, but I think a lot of active citizen participation in democracy matters a lot. What I think that question should be extended to the entire citizenry of Rivers State. How come nobody challenged it? That this man, even opposition parties, the State House of Assembly was clearly in error. And he should have apologized profusely to the Rivers people for ever, at any time, moving a motion that to recognize a man that has been punished by the Supreme Court, deprecated seriously for lending himself to truncate democracy in the person of Omehia, to now be recognized and, given all the perks, and then so suddenly turn back just because Governor Wike is involved in one enigmatic political journey that nobody understands. So this shouldn't be. So it shows you how much states can be so emasculated from the political standards that are happening in the center. So a state can just be captured, it becomes a fiefdom, and then nobody is able to challenge whatever the State House of Assembly does or the governor.
Frank Tietie, we'll have to leave it there. Thank you very much for joining us on Newsnight and helping us understand the intricacies involved in this matter.